What's up guys, back again on the new RC4WD Trailfinder 2 long wheelbase FJ55 Land Cruiser. So I'm not going to show the entire build. Trailfinder 2 has been around, there's plenty of videos, I've got several on the channel building them. We're just going to cover a few of the highlights as we build. I've already put the tire and wheel together. These actually went together really well. I did not have to use a long screw. You could really just get in there and squeeze it and get it started. Again, I love this tire and wheel combo. These Rock Stompers, one of my favorite older RC4WD tires. And in the new compound, they feel fantastic. These wheels are fantastic looking. They are raw steel, but they look like they have a clear coat on them. So they won't rust up like the other set that I have. I think I have some raw Landies. And they've rusted up a little bit over time, so I'm digging that. Skipping around a little bit because I'm not really following the instructions, but first thing we got to do is mount all of our leaf spring mounts. But I went ahead and took the shocks apart, took the springs out. It did come with some grease and stuff and shock oil, but these shocks usually tend to leak a little bit, so I'm just going to put some of the super white lithium grease inside of here if I can do it without making a mess. I'm not going to put too much. I probably should have done that with the shock the other direction, but oh well, live and learn. I can get it to suck it down in there a little bit. Just doing something so it has a little bit of resistance, but we don't want it to. Yeah, I'm going to have to put some in from the bottom. No, it's getting in there. Just some kind of grease. There's not any rhyme or reason. I've never used this stuff in it before, but I think it's going to work just fine. Alright, so I doubt I can get that to show up on camera. There are already 4 holes in that shock piston, so I'm just going to go ahead and grease them like we were, and we'll let them cycle and work through. I'm not sure if this is the right grease for this, but it's my all-purpose grease for RC things. It feels pretty good. Let me wipe the top off before we screw it back down. That feels nice. Alright, I got all 4 of them done. Got a pretty good little system down. It's kind of neat. When you move it slow, it just feels like there's nothing there, but when you start moving it fast, you can feel it fighting you. It takes it a minute, so you're getting a little bit of resistance. I imagine if it could get more in there, you could really make it perform like a shock, but I don't want to do too much. Alright guys, we're trucking right along. Got the chassis just about together. Got the halves married. They've changed their hardware since the last time I've done a kit of the Trailfinder 2, and it seems like a little bit bigger heads on them, and it has a little bit different finish. Seems to be doing pretty good. I had one strip out on me, but that is primarily because I'm using my old Integy set that's 25 years old and pretty well worn. I left my Bauhaus tool at Beat the Creek, and luckily RC Jesus, Nick from RC Hobbies Orlando, ended up with me and Jeremy's. So at least I know where it is, so I can get it back. But yeah, I missed that tool. It's got a real good tips on it, and I haven't stripped out anything since I had it. But we're back to the old stuff for now. Yeah, other than that, the hardware's a little different. It's going together just fine. I was a little disappointed. We still have the standard Trailfinder 2 front hoops. On all my Trailfinder 2s, I run the Jalon 2 hoops. They are a little bit taller. I know on the Marlin Crawler, it comes with those now. So I thought maybe that is an upgrade they had done on all TF2s, but apparently not. They still have the little short ones up front, so we'll see how that plays out with the suspension. But definitely, that's always a good mod to do on your Trailfinder 2. Put those taller hoops if it doesn't already have them. You can still run the stock shocks, and it'll allow you a little more suspension travel. You can raise the servo up with some spacers, just 3, 4, 5 mil, so your servo arm has plenty of room with the axle, and that's probably the best fix for the Trailfinder 2 front suspension that I've done over the years. So, but anyways, looking good. I had a twister servo until we took this off the C2X, and we upgraded it to a Reef 444. And the only servo I have right now, I have a Raw 500 Reefs that I picked up at Beat the Creek, and I don't know what that's going in yet because that's a big boy, that's expensive, and yeah. So we're going to run this one in here. This was a good servo. They're not super noisy. They've got pretty good amounts of torque. Pretty good for a basic entry-level truck. So that's what we're going to run in this one for now. I'm on step 15. We're about to mount the electronics tray, the radio box, And then we start with the transfer case, carrier bearing, transmission, drive shaft, and then we move on to the axles and the suspension and all that good stuff. So it's going good. We'll pick back up in a minute. Alright guys, we're around step 21. Another TF2 pro tip. These 3 screws that hold the spur gear on, take those off one at a time and Loctite them. They will back out very easily on the trail. It's happened on every one of my trucks that I did not Loctite them. So it's good the transmission's already built, but Loctite those each individually. I said it's a pain in the butt to get in there with the servo already in place and everything once it's on the truck. And that'll stop you dead in your tracks when that thing pops off and you lose the screws. And they can't be too long. It has to be pretty close to this size, which look like, I don't know, 6 mil. Also, while we're here on the transmission, I'm going to check the tightness of the clutch spring, I guess you call it. This stuff's already been open so long it's starting to get jelly. I'm just going to crank that down a little bit. Want it pretty tight. I don't like a lot of slip in the trans. It's a rock crawler. It's not like we're racing buggies or anything. Just make sure that is cranked down all the way. Took another turn and a half. So now we're good to go. Next step is leaf springs. And we'll talk some more about that here in a second because I'm going to pick and choose which springs we use. And I didn't mean to rhyme. Alright guys, so we got the leaf springs on the axles. And what I do, I only put the largest leaf, the main leaf with the eyelets, and the second largest one. This rig with a Lexan body is going to be very lightweight, and right out of the box it's not going to perform well. Leaf springs have to break in, and that's the downfall of leaf spring trucks. People don't understand that. You get it, it's stiff, and then you start buying stuff. You start buying those Terraflex shackles and the Z boxes and all this stuff, and it'll flex, but that's not... It still is not going to work right if the leaf springs are not broken in. So it either takes time, or you just do this 3,000 times a day and just try to get them to loosen up a little bit. And they will over time, and it's easier on heavier rigs, and when they do, it's like a totally different animal. But right out of the box, they are super, super stiff. So it's up to you what you want to do. I never run the full sets, but if you run only the main leaf, especially in the rear, you're going to get axle wrap and you're going to bend your leaf springs, especially if you're running a hot motor ESC combo. And I know if you're new to the scale stuff, it's totally different. You don't need that much speed, but a lot of people do it still anyway, and then they get mad when they bend their leaf springs, and it's, you know, it is what it is. My Amigo, I had a 27 turns Holmes Hobby motor, and I was bending leaf springs, and that truck only comes with 1 leaf. It doesn't have a multi-leaf pack, that short wheelbase Trailfinder. So it's all about time and patience, breaking these things in. I bend them a little bit before I put them on, just trying to get them to flex. That's how all leaf springs are. There are some different ones out there. When we built the Rat King hauler, I bought every leaf spring that I could find. Tamiya, RC4WD drive, the red ones, everything. Yeah, it's just, they're different sizes. I probably have 4 or 5 different length leaf springs, and they won't all work with different rigs. The old Tamiya Hilux ones, the original one from the 80s, are perfectly flat, and they of course bend pretty well, and you can stack multiple leaves because they're all pretty flat. But these have a pretty heavy arch, and it just takes time to break them in and wear it down. So there's lots of little mods. The O-ring mod, where you put a little O-ring in there and it allows it to flex a little bit. I don't remember what it's called. You sand down the eyelets at a taper, at an angle on each side, and it allows it to flex a little bit more on the shackle and the hanger. You can do all that stuff, but again, you're not going to get accurate reading until you actually break in the leaf springs and see how they're going to perform. That's one reason why a lot of the Trailfinder 2s I buy are used, because they're already beat up and the springs are worn down perfectly, and they're great to use. They may look like crap, but they work better. So I picked this one up a while ago. Let's see if I can show you this. Got this truck at Crawlfest. I mean, it's pretty well used and beaten. It's got the O-ring mod, but look how straight those leaf springs are. We've got a good amount of flex. Shocks are junk that I put on there. But yeah, once they break in, it's a totally different animal. So that's my pointers on leaf springs these days. Again, you can do it however you like, but until the leaf spring is broken in, and running out and buying the red leaf springs, it's not going to fix your problem either. Especially, I've seen a lot of people do that. You get the red leaf springs, swap them out, and you don't put a second leaf on it, and then you get out there and they're so soft that you immediately bend them. And there's really not any coming back once you bend them. Then you're going to have a lean, just like a real truck would. So these stock, regular old black leaf springs will work great eventually. Alright guys, making some progress. I ran into one little issue, just a little typo. So these R3, R4 trans have two mounting pieces that go on. The pictures and the instructions show a new style that actually takes two screws. I've seen that. I think it was on the TF2 short wheelbase. This piece here actually does not have a hole in the front. It actually has a post. So it doesn't just slide in and put the screws in like the instructions tell you. So in case yours is like that, all you have to do is loosen up this screw, or for your front two cross members on both sides, and you could pry the frame rails open enough to slide it in, and it'll hold itself in while you put all the screws in. But yeah, that's probably just a little mix up on the parts. Let me go back to that part in the instructions I could show you. Alright, not sure if you can see that. This little bracket here, see it shows two holes, no, four actually, two with the button head, the flat heads that go into that, and then two to mount to the chassis. Well, the one that came with in my kit has a little arm that sticks off of that. There's not a hole there. It's kind of just an alignment pin. Most of the Trailfinder 2s I have that, but I have seen it. Maybe it was a Delon 2 thing that had that. I have seen this kind before, so you may get it like that. It may be right, but in case yours comes with the other one that's not shown in the instruction, it's easy. Just loosen those 4 bolts, pull the frame rails apart the best you can, because you're already fighting with this drive shaft to try to get it all together. Little tricky, little tedious. I scratched a little bit up of that bracket trying to force it in there, but anyways, we're in, and transmission is in now. So the next step, I think, is drive shafts and steering, and we should be nearing the end of this. Alright, so we're to the drive shafts, and I haven't had any like this. These are actually pretty beefy. We've got metal U-joints, metal ends, a lot of reinforcement here on the plastic parts, and it's a double slip, kind of similar to the newer axial stuff. So it looks pretty good actually. See how it holds up over time, but it's beefier than any of the other plastic shafts I've had. Alright guys, so with the long wheelbase, you have this carrier bearing. It's actually a little bearing that goes in there, and you have this little extension. The way that is set up, the hole on this extension is larger than the axle and the transfer case output shafts. So if you don't Loctite the snot out of this pin, it will just go all the way straight through. So that's, you know, I always recommend Loctiting those pins, but that one in particular, because it will just go right through, and it's not as snug of a fitment as it is on the other shafts. So yeah, just something to look out for. Alright guys, it's time to put the wheels and tires on. This has a unique setup. It has like a wheel widener. I thought these were some kind of adapter, but you take that off, put this on, but no, it's actually just a widener. And the byproduct of that is now you have a scale nut on the outside that threads onto the shaft, and yeah, it's just a spacer. Bump everything out, because I guess this body is so wide. So we'll get that lined up. And now you've got this nice little scale center cap on the truck, and it's probably, I'd say, 10 millimeters of a widening effect. Alright guys, so I think we're going to wrap the video up here. It's been a pretty good build. This would be a good general TF2 build video, just with the tips and the tricks and the little things to look for. It's getting into now, the last couple steps are the bumpers that are body specific, the mount on the rear, and then it shows to put the side pieces on for the Velcro mounts, and then yeah, we need to skip ahead to the body part after that. So I've got to find some more electronics, figure out what motor I want to use. I've got a couple like stock motors laying around. I have a nice Holmes Hobby motor here, 27 though. It's going to be a little too quick, but this is interesting. It's neat how the kit incorporates the Lexan body with the Velcro mounts. It does have body posts that come from the body down in the front, and I'm assuming the rear as well. I didn't get that far. Where you can adjust something, yeah. So you can take the body off multiple ways. I'm guessing that holds the back and the front up, and then you have the Velcro on the sides. So, yeah, it's different. It's definitely a different thing for RC4 drive. But the engineering behind the body and not having any body clips and things like that looks pretty good. And it looks neat now. I got a bumper on here. And that's a weird shiny plastic, man. It's just stuff we're not used to seeing. So, but overall, I hope this video helps somebody. RC4 drive also is very good. Just about every piece of hardware had one extra piece in it. And for the wheels, it actually gave us, we've got our pinion gear as well. Somewhere up here I have a bag of, I don't know what I did with it now. Oh, it came with the two tools for the wheel nuts, because they have the scale bolts that are extra small. And it came with about 5 extra bolts. So that's handy, because those will round off easy. They are small and delicate. I had a couple spin on the last turn. So if they give me trouble if I ever take them apart, I've got some spares. And I've got the actual tool to do it. I used an older tool that I've had from Scale Hardware kits in the past. But they give you something to do it if you don't have that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll pick back up next on this build of the FJ55 with trying to paint Lexan. So, you know, I have a bad history with painting Lexan. I've never been good at it. I never claimed to be good at it. It is challenging for me, so this is going to be a definite challenge. So, I'm going to end it off here, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. Got any questions or anything with your TF2 build, don't hesitate to ask. I've been building these trucks for a long time, and I'm very familiar with them. Know them pretty well inside and out, so keep it scale. I'll see y'all next time.